Welcome to the Female Voice podcast. This week I am delighted to have Julie Baker with me from Natwest. I was introduced to Julie 2 years ago now when I first launched Female Founder Finance. Had a conversation with Dave Furnival, who is our broker manager at Natwest. And he instantly said, right, you need to speak to Julie. There's lots we can do to help. So we had a meeting in London, a lovely lunch with a group of us, and kind of the relationships continued to develop from there. Julie's been super kind and super supportive of everything that we're trying to achieve at Female Founder. So I thought it'd be really great to have you on the podcast to hear about your journey in finance, starting from branch level to the role that you've got today as head of partnerships, which is fantastic in itself. So welcome, Julie.
Thank you very much. It's great to see you, Roxanne. And yes, overdue. I can't believe it's 2 years since that lunch, but we've done lots of exciting things since then.
Yes, definitely. So career in finance as a woman is notoriously difficult. It's very stereotypically male-led bank manager type ethos. You are one of the most trailblazing women that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. Everything that you've achieved and everything that you've done in your career is just so inspirational. So would you like to share kind of how you got into working in Natwest in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to 1982 when I was just finishing my emails. So yes, my A-levels. And that year, I was really stuck as to what I wanted to do for a career. And until then, I wanted to be a PE teacher. I was very sporty. And I had a week's work experience in the PE department. And it took me about half a day to realise that other students weren't as passionate as me about sport. They were a nightmare when it came to sport, and I no longer wanted to be a PE teacher, so I was at a loss. So I went and spoke to my domestic science teacher, funnily enough, and she said, Julie, you're really good at maths. She said, my husband is a bank manager. Go and have a chat with him. And so it was my domestic science teacher who was my first sponsor. I didn't know that word at the time, who actually introduced me to her husband. And sure enough, I was one of 11 people taken on by Natwest that year in Lincoln in the Midlands, which is where I lived at that time. So that was 43 years ago next month. So that is pretty incredible that here I am still after 43 years. But let's go back to those early days, because I said 11 people started in 1982 in the branch that I worked at. Of course, you don't even have 11 people in a branch anymore.
Nine of those many branches to be fair anymore, do they?
No, that's right. So there was about 100 people at that time, just to give you an idea on the size of the branch. And 9 of the other colleagues that joined with me that year were male, 2 females. And the other female, it was her uncle that was a branch manager. So we were both there because we knew somebody who had introduced us, or it probably would have been all males. At that time in the branches, it wasn't expected that women progressed. There was no female leaders. So for the first 5 years, I worked really hard to try and get on talent programs, do my banking exams. And I had a real turning point after 5 years when the opportunity came to go and work offshore. And I was told by my branch manager at the time that, I wouldn't be able to go because, it's not the sort of thing that women did. They weren't mobile. All those things you hear about, absolutely true. That's what happened. But actually, I had a boyfriend at the time who worked in Jersey, went over there, got talking to all the branch managers. And I realised if you get talking to the right people and they like you, they will help you get over there, because they were looking for good staff. So sure enough, after about 9 months of applying for jobs, I got a role in Jersey. And that's where my career really progressed, and where I got my first leadership role. And was it a challenge? Absolutely, yes. But did I have some really supportive male leaders supporting me at that time? Yes. I was the first female assistant manager in Jersey Library Place, and I don't think they knew what hit them, because females didn't normally do those roles. But I've got to say, they were brilliant, and I had a really good sort of 3 years in Jersey, where during that time not only did I get married, but also had my daughter, who is also a banker today. So that's where it all started. But I suppose moving on from there, it was when I came back to the mainland. So at that time, I was mum of 2. I had my son when we first came back. But it was when I came back to the mainland and started working with businesses that it hit me that in the UK, and this was about 25 years ago, there were so few women in business. I had a portfolio when I was relationship manager of about 200 customers, and only two of them were women. And they were both amazing women, both hoteliers, but they weren't just hoteliers, typical women. They did all sorts of things. One of them could fly, she was a pilot. The other one, although she ran a really successful hotel, she was also chair of the local hoteliers sort of network or association as it was. So she invited me to go once a month. And because I was mum of two, I didn't have a lot of time for networking or going to all the social events. But I did this once a month, made sure my husband was home to look after the kids. And from that one networking event, with that, those couple of connections I had, and we're down in Dorset at the time in Bournemouth, I got bucket loads of referrals and work. And it was at the time when all of those hotels and guest houses in Bournemouth were having conservatories, were having, bedrooms turned into en suites or en suites replaced. So there was this, constant churn of opportunities to lend money. And everyone was saying, how do you do it? And I was like, well, I've got the right people that I connect myself with. And, it was a really supportive network and really successful. But out of that grew, and this came from attending the Dorset Business Awards one year, grew a local network, because it's very difficult, as you know, you're a working mum and really busy, to do the sort of networking that we see some of our male counterparts be able to do. But there is the sort of networking that women can do if they're smart, and women are smart. So I worked with these two women who both attended an award ceremony with me, and we looked around the room and there's a real lack of women. So they both had hotels. So it was a no-brainer that we could set it up in their hotels. Didn't have to be expensive. We trialled it at different parts of the day, whether it was breakfast, afternoon, in the evening. And we really got a sort of an exciting and interesting, if you like, network of women from around the Bournemouth area. And then from that grew and expanded into other areas. And then we did the Dorset Female Business Awards, which we launched in one of the hotels one year. And it just grew from there. So I did that for quite a few years. But then I suddenly realised it's great, all this networking and all this support, but there's not a lot of finance going to women. So that's when I had my first interaction with, if you like, the local authorities and the local enterprise partnership. So down in Dorset, there was a local enterprise partnership and a growth hub. And it was around the time that the government had released the regional growth funds. And I don't know if you were around then, Roxanne, you're much, much younger than me. But to enable a business to actually get some of the regional growth fund money, they had to have match funding from banks. And to get the grant funding, you also had to be able to show you were growing your business. And the way you did that was, it was all about employing and taking on additional staff. So you had to share the national insurance numbers and evidence that you were doing that. So I sat around the decision-making table, and there was sort of 4 or 5 of us. Again, I was the only female at the local enterprise partnership in Dorset. There was an accountant on there. There was somebody from the local authority. And I was the one saying, where are all the women? There's no women putting in applications. So we proactively went and sought some so we could get some diversity and those going in the mix. And I suddenly thought, actually, the money is there to fund women, but sometimes, especially in those days, we had to go and find the women. And now, fortunately, I know there's still a lot to do, but we are in a much better place than we were back 25 years ago. And obviously, a lot more women are setting up in business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a couple of questions on that then. So you mentioned that your daughter now is working in banking and finance. Do you feel like having that kind of inspirational role model, her looking up to you and your career, kind of really inspired her to go into finance? Was it something specific? Was she just super keen on numbers? What do you think, having her look up to you kind of as an inspiration, may think, actually, I can do that as well?
Do you know, I think all of the above. She's absolutely loving it. She's done all the roles. So she worked her way through the roles, a bit like I did. And she's now a branch manager. So really proud of her. But the one thing that I do think that she has got from seeing me is, and we talk about it a lot when we're in sort of women in business so-called, is that confidence. I saw a picture of her recently, and she went over to Sweden for a managers meeting. And in this picture, there is a whole sea of suits of men. And there's one woman, and it's her, and she's there chatting and talking and really confident. So part of me is really proud as a mum to think, oh my goodness, she can do that. How proud am I that she's doing the same job as all of those and she can hold her own and do it well. But at the same time, it breaks my heart that even today, she's in such a minority still. And we are much, much better in the banks now. I mean, I'm really fortunate at NatWest. I've had a female CEO, we've got a female CFO, and we go public that we seek to get sort of, we've got over, I think it's 43% at the moment, females on our senior exec board. But certainly in that CEO -3, we proactively make sure that we get women on all the shortlists and everything and in those decision making positions. But as a sector, and you know this, Roxanne, from going in the city and seeing all the bankers and some of the events, it's still very male dominated. And dare I say it, the more you go into certain fields and specialisms, and you'll see this as well because of the work you do, again, it gets more male dominated. And we see that in the investor space, don't we? We know that there's more male VCs and more male decision makers on investment committees, so that when women are pictured, it's a real challenge to get over those biases. So still very much a minority, but no, really, really proud of what she's achieved. But I think it's partly because she's, yes, seen her mum do it. It's partly because of her own hard work as well.
Yeah. I think it's a really important point to highlight, isn't it? Because it's really well documented that obviously finance, specifically our industry, is very heavily male dominated, as you said. But it's really difficult in that kind of role model area to look up because there aren't many of us women in finance. So everything that we can do in conversations like this to try and encourage them, like school leavers, exactly like you said, the graduates program, to say, look, it is possible if you want to do it. Don't be put off by the fact that it is majority men, because the women that are doing this job are pretty awesome.
Oh, totally. And they have to be, don't they? Because,
Yeah.
and it's quite scary. And I was reflecting back on this when you said earlier about we met a couple of years ago for lunch. Until then, and I've met loads of brokers over the year, and lots of my colleagues have left the bank and gone into broking, but they're all males. I think you are the first female that I've met in broking, which is scary, isn't it? Even in this day and age. And I know there are others, and you've introduced me to others, and I know you employ a lot of women in your team as well, which is fabulous. But that is quite scary that even in this day and age we still see that.
It is, and I do feel that when we go to events as the broker, and you walk into like a conference room or a theatre and it's probably 95% male. Even now, I mean, I've worked in finance for about 18 years and I still get kind of you just have to just think, well, I've just got to walk into this room, and you've got to kind of have the confidence and know that you're there because you're good at what you do, you want to learn, you want to network with the people that are in the room as well. But having that, like you said, with your husband, having that male allyship and having kind of male peers that are happy to support, that are happy to champion women, is so important as well.
Totally is. And and having other women to champion women, and I know you do that very much in your business, and I'm always on the lookout, as you know, for people that are talent, and if it's not something or somebody that I can support myself, if I can signpost them to somebody else I know, that's very much our role.
Yeah,
make sure that happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the whole, as it's obviously very well documented, the angel and the investing side, women are more likely to invest in female-led businesses because of that. It's kind of that connection, isn't it? It's the most female-led businesses are purpose-led, so they're created because they're passionate about what they want to do, or they want to try and solve a situation for other women. And I think that really resonates, and that's what I tried to replicate on the finance side as well. So having the female within the finance industry and connecting them up with the female founders as well, it just made perfect sense, really.
Yeah, no, it does. And there are more role models today than there were, say, 10 years ago. It's certainly a lot more than there were 20 years ago, but it is still so, so important. And that does bring us on to something that has changed over the last few years that I do think it's worth raising, because I do have concerns about it, although I see the absolute benefits as well. And that is the working from home. I've been into the office this week. I've had 2 days in the office, and I would say 70 to 80% of the people in the office are males. And the women that are in the office are the younger ones, or ones like me that are older and had their families and back in. I've got absolutely sort of no hard feelings about. I don't think anybody needs to be in an office 5 days a week, 9 till 5 and more. However, I do think there's a huge risk if you are working from home that you'll lose your if you like, that profile that you built for yourself. You'll become invisible. So you've got to work smart if that's the case. So you've still got to come in 1 or 2 days a week. Doesn't have to be for the full day. Make sure you're in. You're seeing the right key people. You're seeing some people face to face, time to time, especially a team. But I think if you're a leader, it's really important because leaders need to be present. And yes, you can be present over Zoom, like we're doing this over Zoom now, and absolutely get that. But actually, there is something in meeting face to face. You get that little bit of buzz, that inspiration. And especially if you've got concerns, if you need to ask the question, it's so much easier when you're standing, face to face with someone than having to do it over Zoom where it's a little bit impersonal. Yeah. So I'm really sort of working with my team. We had a team day yesterday. And yes, some people travelled a long way, but it's so important because you just keep that sort of that face-to-face interaction going, even if it's only a couple of days a month. But, at least that, for most people, I think they need a bit of a fix 2 or 3 days a week.
Yeah, exactly. I love having an office that's buzzing with people and atmosphere and conversation. Kind of, it makes you feel a bit more alive, doesn't it? If you sat in a home office and it's just you and your laptop, you just kind of, whilst you may be entirely absorbed in what you're doing, which is great, it's exactly like you said, you're not making the relationships and the connections and kind of the meaningful, the face-to-face conversation, because we do have a giggle in the office, like one of us will bring cake or someone will fall over, and like it's like literally it's that kind of
it's
human,
those sort of
it's
things,
the human relationship, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And especially those that live on their own, there's nothing worse than somebody who's living on their own. If all they've, the only interaction they have is all day is through a screen. I just feel it's really healthy to have that human interaction as well at some stage. And for women, I think keeping their profile so, they can have the best skills in the world, but if they're invisible, they won't get the benefits that some of their counterparts that are in the office every day and seen may get. So we've got to help with that. It is a new way of working, but how do we keep the profile of those that are doing really good work, that are working from home more regularly or remotely, sort of visible? And I think some leaders have got responsibility with that as well. But I do think we've got, it's a two-way thing. You've got to encourage them to come in and see people face to face as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a social media reel with Emma Greed a couple of days ago, actually, and she said if she was working from home, she would not have the career that she has now because she's been office based for her whole career, and she loves having the team and she loves being there to drive them and support them and challenge them and kind of empower them to be the best that they can be.
Yes, no, I absolutely resonate with that. And when I look back at my career, if I go back to when I was a relationship manager, I couldn't have done that job if I didn't go and see the customers' businesses. You become part of their team. And I did that role for 4 years. And then when I moved on to be an area director, so I looked after a team of relationship managers, you still have your top clients from your team that you go out and see. And actually, when they succeed, you succeed, don't you? And I was really fortunate in my career. I was down in Dorset when we were hosting the 2012 Olympics. So we got involved with the funding and the building of the Olympic Marina down in Weymouth and Portland. And how fascinating was that? And once a month we'd go down there, and it started off with just being water. Then it turned into this fabulous marina where they're going to do all the sailing. And I'm thinking, you couldn't do that from home. You just wouldn't experience it, and you wouldn't get to meet the same people. And then when I look at what I've done over the last 10 years, and I've been really fortunate. I've been able to work with sort of government, with media, with other influencing forums out there. But it's so important you get there, that space. That you wouldn't be able to do that completely in the same way over Zoom. And yes, we do have all party parliamentary groups meetings over Zoom, but what you don't get is those follow-up conversations, those little conversations with people in the room that you haven't met before that are really important, and you can support each other because it's just a little face on the screen. So no, I think it's important now. It was important then. I know the world is changing, but I do hope that people do make that effort to meet face to face regularly, because I think it's good for their well-being, and I think it's good for the business as well.
Exactly. That kind of brings me nicely on to my next question.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to have a place on the Natwest Accelerator last year, and I know that's got regional hubs all across the UK, and some other women that I met on that journey have done the accelerator course in different venues, a couple in Birmingham, a couple in London. And again, it's that face-to-face community. It's the ability to have that kind of central hub you can go to, the learning and the workshops and the connections that you make on that accelerator. I still speak to ladies that I met 18 months ago, and we still all catch up and we bounce questions off each other. And that's really, I think it was really important for my learning journey, because Female Founders, my first business that I've really been in charge of by myself. And the support that the accelerator gave me was brilliant. So I think I would really like to hear your opinion on the accelerator, how you think it helps specifically women, because I know on the cohort I was on, more than 50% of us were female founders.
Yeah. Oh no, thank you. And I'm sat back thinking, oh, I don't have to talk about the accelerator. You've done it all for me. But at NatWest, we are really proud of the NatWest Accelerator. And like you say, it's 10 years old this year. We've supported almost 10,000 entrepreneurs through the 10 years through the programme, and really exciting this year, we've just launched the digital community platform, which links all of that support together, all the exciting events in the accelerators together, all of the entrepreneurs together if they want to, and we're hoping to get 10,000 on that platform before the end of the year. So really exciting. But I was fortunate enough to be involved right at the beginning when we did partner with an organisation at that time. And yes, it's been really exciting. We've had, dragons there. We still do some pitching. You'll know from, your experience on the accelerator that, one of the scariest things is the pitch. Well, the way that we do it at NatWest, it's all about that mindset of an entrepreneur, and it's all about that hook. And we practice and practice and practice and practice so that it's made perfect. And when I hear the entrepreneur's pitch, you know instantly if they've been through our accelerator. And it even goes if they're on the actual Dragon's Den TV programme, because of the style and the way that they do their pitch. So it's something we're really proud of. And again, you'll know that when you get that focused support, whether it's the business coaching, whether it's connection to other markets, whether it's connection to a community, other entrepreneurs. And I sat next to an entrepreneur that's on our accelerator at the moment in the London hub at a dinner the other week. And he's worked for 2 banks in his time in the UK. He's from India. And he said, and it was an open forum, and there were representatives from Westminster around the table as well. And he said until he went on the accelerator, he only networked and lived with people like him, and quite often wasn't even speaking in English. So it was mainly people from India. When he went on the NatWest Accelerator, and because we proactively go out to get at least 20% from ethnic minority communities, and like you said, at least 50% women on those programs, because we want to make sure we've got fair representation, he said he has built a network outside. One, his comfort zone, because he'd never networked in those sort of circles before. But 2, this community he never thought he would have access to. And his business is doing really well. And it just made me feel really proud, because that is exactly what the accelerator's for. We talk about all the challenges that entrepreneurs face, and access to finance is the one that is spoken about so much. But before you can access finance or investment, and you know this, you need to be able to do a cash flow. You need to be able to do your business plan. You need to understand your markets, your competition, and all those things. And, you need to set yourself goals and KPIs. And being on the accelerator program really helps you with that. And, we do acknowledge it's a really, really lonely place to be as a sole trader, a business owner. And actually, when you're in a community like that with people that are going to check in with you on a regular basis and probably hold you to account, but actually it helps, because then you make sure you do what you plan to do. And we're really proud of the NatWest Accelerator. So at the moment we've got 12 around the UK, and we're looking at, as well as the community platform, would really like to work with more universities as well. So lots of exciting plans in that place. Yeah, Darren Peary is leading on that work at the moment for NatWest. And yeah, really exciting. I'm still working with partners. And we haven't talked about the strategic partners yet. And my role at the moment in the bank is working with strategic partners that are as passionate as we are supporting entrepreneurs, and especially those from some of the diverse segments. So when we look at women in business, and you and I have worked a lot or mostly on women in business, at the moment we're working with an organisation run by Sahar Hashimi called Buy Women Built, which is a lovely community platform that really enables female founders to, one, be part of an amazing community, but also to get into some of the incredible supply chains. So we're looking at Ocado, looking at Whole Foods, Selfridges, pop-up stores, and been going around the country with Sahara and team, and really proud to be working with them. And then, of course, the one of the other partners we're working with at the moment, Digital Boost, which looks after all entrepreneurs should they need support, and that's access to expertise. And that expertise is so important for entrepreneurs. You don't always need a mentor, and you don't always know where to go. But if you go onto the Digital Boost platform and you need help with your website or whatever it may be, you can get through to an expert and just have 30 minutes, 45 minutes with them. Really helpful. So yeah, really proud of the partners we work with.
Yeah, brilliant. I actually do follow By Women Built on across all social medias, and every day they're posting about an amazing female-led business and the products that they've got. And I saw the Ocado launch, which was fantastic, just brilliant, because it's such an opportunity for those product-based businesses to get their names out via the distribution channel, and they're all so supportive of each other. You can see the comments on the threads, and they're all having little conversations about, and they're all championing each other, and it's lovely to see. And that's one of the reasons why I love working with women so much, because I really feel like they genuinely do want to help each other, and they do support each other. And it's the female community, isn't it?
Oh, totally. And, the reason why Sahar set that up, and it was during COVID, she read a tweet that said something along the lines of, not everybody will be a female founder, not everybody will invest in one, but everybody can buy from one. And then she said, but you need to know who they are to buy from one. So, every woman can support a woman just by buying their product. So if you're in a supermarket and you're in the aisle and you think, oh yeah, a woman's made this hummus or whatever it may be, you're helping their business. And I think it's so easy, and we can all play a part in that. So great initiative.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Right. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really great to hear your journey. It's always lovely to hear from you and speak to you. And thank you for all your support. I really, really genuinely appreciate it, and everything that Natwest do.
And thank you as well, Roxanne. When I met you, I was just like, wow, there's a woman here that is setting up a brokerage for female founders. Why hasn't anybody thought of this first? So you're one of my trailblazers. So I am so pleased that we met in the early stages of your journey, and, delight to do this today. But look forward to many more conversations in the future as well. So thank you.